OpenAI has a new model coming. That's right, Strawberry has been confirmed to only be a few weeks away.
And it's looking to be revolutionary, or also pretty slow.
Some say underwhelming, some say game changer.
So congrats, OpenAI, for being the leader or a dead company. We're gonna explain. There's a lot.
Plus, Oprah is turning her attention towards AI.
What? Hold up.
She's got a special coming out with Bill Gates, Marquez Brownlee, and even Sam Altman himself.
It's an Oprah AI world, and we're just prompting it, Kevin.
Oh, no.
Wow.
I guess you get a GPT, you get a GPT.
We all get a GPT!
And now, put on those tinfoil hats, kids, because your favorite three-letter government agencies just unlocked a new superpower to weaponize against us. AI lip reading is here. We're gonna tell you all about it.
Take that hat off, Kevin. It's time for AI for Humans. Welcome everybody to AI for Humans. This is your weekly guide into the wonderful world of generative AI. We are here to demystify and do all that fun stuff that we do every week. Kevin, how are you today?
I am scared to move my lips, Gavin.
We will talk more about that. We will talk more about that later.
I know we're supposed to tease it. It works. This works.
Hey, you said the S word. Now we're going to
works. Gavin.
Okay.
And
let's get into the news, Kevin. Let's get into the news. Okay, everybody, it is a big week in AI only because we finally have something of real value, something of real news that's come out. This has been a long time coming.
Shout out to our past selves, really shoveling nonsense for the last few weeks. But no, now we got the juicy bits.
We have the juicy bits, but again, it's just a thing of no exact date or anything like that. But the information has posted a new story about Strawberry. This is OpenAI's new reasoning engine, and they do say that it's only a few weeks away. So we can expect an OpenAI drop pretty soon. Just to be clear, OpenAI's developer day is coming very soon as well. So we're keeping an eye on that. But this is pretty big, Kev. A couple things that came out of this story. Obviously, we've been waiting on this for a while, but they do say also in the story that
we're going to talk about the pause? We're going to talk about the pause? Yeah, let's do it, buddy. Let's do it.
There's probably a 10 to 20 second resolve to get your answers, meaning that you put a question in and it's going to take 10 to 20 seconds back. And I'm not exactly sure how to feel about this yet. What do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have to wait like one yogic breath cycle to consult a super intelligence to have it design your marketing strategies?
I don't need yogic breaths.
I
hyperventilate at all times, Kevin. I don't want yogic breaths. I just want to be breathing in and getting my information out right away.
It's amazing how quickly in this life and in this industry specifically, the goalposts are constantly dragged. Yes, 10 seconds does sound like a long time to wait for this to render you some sort of output. But years ago, we were impressed that a single letter could be predicted in an Amazon review. That's where this all started. And now we're talking about this revolutionary new thing, and we're already beating it up because it might be a little bit slower than the technology from yesterday. And that's because it's thinking critically about what is going to lead to the best answer. What sort of answer is it giving, right? It's basically, it's odd that the solution to AI shortcomings happens to be more AI. Just throw more at it and maybe it will get better.
And one other piece of news in this article was that there are a couple people there are no real people they're quoting. Just to be clear, this is one of those articles that has like anonymous sources and people that have used it. There's a few people who have been saying that it's not that much better. And Kev, I think this is something else to think about. Like there's an expectation amongst the AI community, at least, that when this comes out, we're all going to have this kind of blow away moment. And I don't know if that's going to be the case exactly. And I think the other thing to think about with Strawberry, when you talk about chain of reasoning, this whole idea is like it can solve math problems, right? And that it could solve things that are not the sort of things that it can normally solve, including it would hopefully hallucinate less on actual information that you want to get out of the model. So I think we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens. I expect they may downplay this a little bit, but there is another story that came out in the last week, which was really interesting, is that they're also exploring conceivably a up to $2,000 a month payment system for ChatGPT or for whatever access to the OpenAI models. And this kind of leads into the idea that maybe there will be tiers of access, right? One of the things that people have said is that you might get a limited queries on Strawberry if you're on the ChatGPT Plus, and if you wanted to open it wide, there could be conceivably different pricing structures, which again is something that could come out of Demo Day. I think this is the maturation of OpenAI as a business, because a lot of people said, like, who's going to pay $2,000 a year for this? Well, if it's really useful, you could see a company like Microsoft paying for X number of licenses of this to be used on a regular basis. And that is a big, big business if they can make it work.
The notion of one of these large language model providers going down led to sudden work stoppages across the board. You'd see it on every social, right? There are people that are already relying on these tools day in, day out. Now, the difference of where we're at today having this discussion versus like 2 years ago is that there's a lot of competition. There's open source models.
I mean, I think Anthropic is pushing them as hard as anybody else is pushing right now. Speaking of Anthropic, there's a great Decoder episode with Nilay Patel with Mike Krieger. He's Anthropic. He used to be at Instagram. He was one of the Instagram co-founders. You should go listen to it. They really dive deep into like how Anthropic trained their model, all sorts of other stuff, but it's definitely worthwhile. And again, Anthropic is pushing OpenAI in a very significant way. But I think the other thing to talk about is there's a tweet from Sam that came out a couple days ago where he said, if you strap a rocket to a dumpster, the dumpster can still get into orbit and the trash fire will go out as it leaves the atmosphere. Many important insights contained in that information, but it's also better to launch nice satellites instead. So I think this is Sam saying, let us take our time. We need to make sure that we make the right thing. We are not going to launch something that isn't ready yet.
I think that's totally valid. And for those that are saying it's not as revolutionary as we want it to, I'm by no means an OpenAI apologist. As far as I know, Gavin, they're not signing any checks for us, correct?
No,
Great.
They are not.
Just making sure I can be weapons free on this. The Strawberry Advance is not the new foundational model. That is not the next big thing. It is a tweak. It is a new approach on a pre-existing model. So if it does help the benchmarks and it does help the hallucinations, if it reduces those, that is a huge improvement. And then especially when you take that feature and you bolt it onto what should be the next foundational model, now suddenly...
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're cooking. Now you're cooking. Now you're cooking with fire, Sam Altman.
Gasolina.
There was actually an interesting... Jimmy Apples, the guy we talked about in the show before, had another interesting kind of rumor tweet. And this is like rumor alert. He said that it's possible that that next model could be by December of this year, but more likely maybe Q1 of next year. But again, I do think there's something they're going to say about it this year. So that will be interesting. Just a quick shout out to, there was a great new Sora video that came out from Nice
So
Aunties,
good.
which is an incredible artist that makes these amazing videos of these. I think they're Korean women, old women, and they do all these fun things. But another really good use of Sora. But Kevin, before we move on from this, the last question I have is really Sora, advanced voice, Strawberry. These are all things we've heard about. We've read lots of blog posts. We've seen lots of stuff. And I just think OpenAI has to ship soon. They have to ship something, or they are going to feel like they are getting lapped.
Do you still pay your monthly subscription for OpenAI?
I do, and you know what's funny? I'm assuming I'm paying it because something is going to come out.
Same.
I mean, I use ChatGPT all the time. At some point, though, I'm going to have to like pivot off of it because it's definitely kind of struggling a little. Speaking of something you don't have to pay for, Kevin, you right now at home can like and subscribe to this video or leave us a podcast review on Apple Podcasts.
I'm sorry, Gavin, not to throw a wrench in this promo. You're saying that the engagement, which helps us grow, which helps us get views, get seen, get serviced by the algorithm, that engagement is free?
Absolutely free, Kevin. You at home, if you are watching this right now, click that like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We will read those at the end of the show. And if you feel like you do want to drop a little bit of money into our tip jar, we have a Patreon. There's a Patreon, which we will link to in the show notes below. We love our patrons. We've opened our Discord, and there's lots of fun conversation happening in there. We've got lots of fun stuff planned for them. So we are very excited. Thank you so much for engaging with us on a regular basis.
I'm 100% not going to get into Potato Gate, but if you're over on the Discord, you will know that I'm not happy about it. So join us over there and see what's going on with Spud Nation. But we got to move on now, Gavin, because I felt a shudder, a disturbance in the Never AI force this morning because the skies have cleared. Everything's good. There's an ethically sourced generative model out there, so everybody can go home, right? We're good?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. So we don't have to, we can shut it all down. We can stop talking about it. No, so what Kevin's referring to here is that this morning, Adobe announced that they have a new version of a generative video model coming based on their Firefly model. And as you may or may not know, Firefly was originally touted as the commercially safe version. And then it did find out that there was some bad training data in it, but they are really actively trying to create models that will allow people to use them for pay, because a lot of these models people in Hollywood especially don't trust, because they're worried that they could get sued on the back end by the people who actually provided the data to train the model. This video that Adobe released is pretty cool, right? And one of the things we've said with Adobe for a long time is Adobe is the direct pipeline to the creative community. Unlike something like Runway or unlike something like Luma, which are these amazing AI video models that if you're not in the creative community, you might have seen earlier and dove into, the creative community works on Adobe. They work on Premiere Pro, they work on Illustrator, they work on Photoshop. So what they're talking about here is creating a pretty good looking generative AI model for Premiere. And Kev, there's just a couple cool things I saw that were great. There's a generative extend feature they're going to come out with. So if you have a shot that you need a couple seconds more of, they show a couple kids walking through the forest and they're able to extend that a little bit further.
Did you see the complimentary shot example? That was the one that got me pretty excited.
Yes. So that was also cool. You want to describe that?
For those that are audio only or haven't seen it yet, there's a shot of a child with a magnifying glass kneeling down in a forest staring at a dandelion. And you feed that into this generative video engine and you say, hey, I need a clip of basically what is being seen through that lens, the red magnifying glass. And so the model looks at the source video and goes, okay, this is what the magnifying glass looks like roughly. This is the size of the hand. This is where they're looking at the dandelion. And you can see that it cuts from full motion video to this more AI looking thing. But we have certainly made some progress with where generative video was even 6 months ago for this to come out looking like that with just a little source clip.
Absolutely. That was the cutting edge of AI, Kevin. But now let's go back a few years. There's a clip from Sergey Brin from Sarnik that is traveling around right now. He picked it up from an interview that Sergey did at an AI conference lately. Let's play a little bit of that.
Language models to begin with, like we invented them basically with a transformer paper that was 6-8 years ago, something like that. Yeah, we were too timid to deploy them. And, for a lot of good reasons, like whatever, some make mistakes, they say embarrassing things, whatever, sometimes they're just like kind of embarrassing how dumb they are. Even today's like latest and greatest things, like make really stupid mistakes people would never make. And at the same time, like they're incredibly powerful and they can help you do things you never would have done.
So that's the exact same discussion we had when launching this podcast.
It's definitely some embarrassment
magic, but it's really going to be embarrassing, and we're going to be so bad at things that other humans are much better at.
It's very true, and we've learned that along the way. That's for sure.
Real strong Robert California vibes in that interview. If
you're right. That's exactly right.
If you know,
so I do want to say the thing about this that's important for everybody to realize, and kind of where like Google stumbled in a major way, is that Google had these people to make the stuff that we have now 6 years ago. I would read a book on this. If anybody's out there and wants to write a book, like this is a really interesting book. And now whether you call the book How Google Stumbled, we'll see in a couple years from now. But like, I kind of want to know the true history of what happened inside of Google and how this didn't come out of it sooner. But it sounds like when you hear Sergey kind of explain this, it sounds like there was an embarrassment factor, right? And that they were too timid, specifically, he says, to do this.
What if it tells you to put glue on pizza, Gavin?
Yeah, well, it didn't end up happening for them anyway. So I think this is just a good lesson learned about like these giant companies. And we talked about OpenAI and how it's taken them a while to roll this stuff out. When companies get massive, there are lots of people in the room who start to think about things like stock price, or they start to think about things like embarrassment, or they start to think about things like press. And this does slow down progress. And again, we may just be at that stage for generative AI right now where there's going to be tons of stuff behind the walls of these companies that we're not going to have access to, but it's going to kind of drip out as they feel comfortable.
I have your book title and I was sitting on it that whole time, Gavin.
Oh, what was
I would read it as well. Goopsie.
That's not that book. That's about the Gwyneth Paltrow company book.
No,
I'll read that though too. I think that's also
She's
another
building an
good
empire
idea.
and it's going to be flawless, and it already has been, and it always will be. Goopsie.
Goopsies, the story of the Yanni egg. And what went wrong. Speaking of interesting companies that are doing stuff at the very ground level, Replit, which is a company that kind of specifically allow people to deploy things to a cloud, has launched an AI agent. And this is something that is much like Cursor we talked about a few weeks ago. This is allowing people to code with text. And a lot of people are doing things within Replit. And the slight difference between this and Cursor, and again, Cursor, as we talked about a few weeks ago, is crushing it right now. They're allowing people to code and do all sorts of interesting stuff. Replit kind of solves the whole pipeline, right? Where you can code within the actual AI agent app, and then it can deploy to the web or it can deploy to different things, and you can actually get a running program out of it.
I shared a meme which exemplifies this, Gavin. It was a text conversation where someone said, "Oh my God, anybody can be a coder now. I just made something amazing with AI." And the person goes, "Oh, share it with me." And then the next follow-up is a link to localhost 3000, which, if you're like, what the heck does that even mean? That is the issue that Replit can solve out of the box that Cursor and other AI programs can, is that you build this amazing piece of software that runs for you locally on your machine. But the moment it comes time to deploy it in the cloud or let someone else poke and prod at it, well, now you have to set up a server or integrate with a pre-existing server. There's new dependencies. There are things that ran locally that need to be rewritten to run in the cloud. We're always excited by the things that we probably can't do so well and how AI gives us that uplift. This is one of those areas that always excites me because I'm now building small little tools for all these little tasks that I have to do, and it's changed my productivity.
Yeah, and I think the thing that people talk about this is single serve programs, which means that like you have a problem, maybe you're not even trying to solve a problem or create a piece of software that's going to go somewhere else, but you have a problem that you want to solve for yourself. And that is transformative, right? And I think something very interesting for people to explore. Our next story, Kevin, is an interesting one at a much bigger level. There's a guy named Dan Hendrycks at DanHendrycks on X, who dropped a pretty interesting demo of a company called Forecast. And they have said that they have created a demo of an AI that can predict the future at a superhuman level on par with groups of humans forecasting working together. So this is an AI that essentially is trying to beat the prediction markets. And if you haven't been following the prediction market world, the poly market and all these different places, you can now place money bets on things in the real world, like the presidential election, other stuff like that. And people have found that these actual bets are predicting in some ways the real results of what's happening. So the name of this model is called 539, Kevin. And if you go to forecast, forecast.safe.ai, you can actually try it yourself. And there's a number of questions that come up there, but let's ask it something else. Let's ask it like, what's the possibility that by 20, we have fully self-driving cars
Level
across,
5 autonomy would be the thing.
Yeah, all 50 states, I'll say. So I've said that. It's going in now. What it's looking for is sources. And so it's grabbing sources. So clearly it's searching the web itself. And it picked up a bunch of weird sources. So hopefully some of these things are useful in some ways. Now it's taking a while, which is interesting. It says it's drafting a report. This is all in real time. Okay. So it says, so it gave me 4 facts. It says Waymo is a leader in autonomous technology and significant investments. GM's crews face setbacks. Tesla continues to develop its full self-driving system with delays in its robotaxi reveal. And the AV industry faces challenges, including sufficient capital and competition.
It seems like a perplexity sort of thing where it's crawling the web, getting the sources, and then if you look in Dan's X post thread, there's like the master prompt, which is the question, today's date, the instructions, and it's like, provide some reasons, give it a 1 to 10 rating, do this. But are we going to have fully autonomous vehicles?
It gave me a 25% answer. So that I guess in that it gives you 25% chance that it can happen. But again, this is just a really cool way of using what we talked about at the top of the show.
I also just got to point out, Gavin, I'm sorry. I asked, will the market correct in Flavortown? Because I said I want to move there to be closer to Guy, but the pandemic really ruined things. And it says, reflecting on the initial probability, it seems reasonable giving mixed signals from the economic activities in Columbus. The base rate for market corrections post-pandemic should be considered, sanity checks confirm 35%. So is there a Flavortown in Columbus?
Maybe there is.
there's Columbus, Ohio. I'm looking
we
for
have
it.
to be clear. This could very well be hallucinating.
That's what I mean. Like, did it fully just hallucinate where Flavortown is? Because if it is in Columbus,
I think in
I'm
part
moving.
you have to ask it questions, Kevin, that are reasonable questions.
Okay, I'll ask about donkey sauce instead.
Okay, well, let's move on. Kevin, we have to get to our last big story this week, which is that Oprah herself is dropping a big special all about AI tonight. If you're watching this or listening to this on Thursday, this happens tonight. And it's going to have Sammy Altman, it's going to have Bill Gates, it's going to have Marquez Brownlee, and a bunch of other people to talk about AI. And one thing I will say with the Sam Altman part of this is like, this would be an opportunity for them to show off kind of what's coming. So there might be some news coming out of it. But more interestingly, Kev, I think that Oprah drives narratives, right? Like we've seen this before. And I think you and I talked a little bit about, we're really curious as to like how she's going to approach this. I think Marquez is going to be an important naysayer on some of this technology because he's very unhappy with how AI training data has been trained on his videos and other things like that.
Sure. I think for us and our audience, this is going to be a lot of retreading of some of the basics. Yes. But I think for the broader audience, this might be the first introduction into what the landscape looks like today and what it might look like 5 years from now. And, I think it was 60 Minutes, or they had a big report not too long ago. It was months ago now, which is eons in our space. But the next day, I was getting texts from everybody. Mostly my pickleball partners, because I do play with a 55
like,
plus
Kevin, what do you
audience.
know about this? Tell me what I have to worry about.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a big eye opener for a lot of people in the world. And I do think they're going to talk about some of the bigger issues that we talk about here every week. Speaking of Oprah, we actually have a really cool guest today. Our AI co-host is somebody that knows Oprah very well. And we're very excited to hear his thoughts on AI and kind of figure out what he thinks about this whole space. Let's meet AI Dr. Phil.
Now, hold on just a minute, Kevin and Gavin, and all you folks listening to the AI for Humans podcast. I'm Mr. Phil, the no-nonsense, bombastic
Mr.
AI
Phil
of Dr. Phil, with a brain full of more self-help, tough love, and fiery wisdom than y'all could ever imagine.
Yeah, you sound really fired up.
It sounds
Mr.
like
Phil.
you're taking a little bit of a downer pill, Mr. Phil.
I've
I'm so
trained
sorry.
on every single episode of Doctor Phil, but don't get it twisted. I took all that, cranked it up to 11, and added a dash of "What were you thinking?" to the mix.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Phil. Let's ask Mr. Phil what he thinks about AI and kind of what he's been doing with it. Because we heard, the reason why he's been booked on the show is we heard he was an AI enthusiast, which is kind of fun.
You better believe I'm pushing AI into the creative stratosphere, taking inspired artworks, stills, and video to the next level. We're talking bold, provocative pieces that don't just catch your eye. They grip your soul and shake loose all that bottled up emotion you've been too scared to deal with.
Oh, wow.
It's about capturing raw intensity. And yeah, sometimes that means getting a little, let's say, evocative, because art, just like life, is messy, wild, and sometimes a little erotic. It's an emotional release that speaks to the deepest parts of who we are.
Phil, Mr. Phil, that's not. That's not.
Are you seeing what I'm
doing,
seeing, Gavin? Because I'm seeing a lot of weird Shrek fanfic. I'm seeing Shrek hanging out with Sonic and Simpson characters.
I don't think we want this to go in this direction. So, Mr. Phil, I'm sorry. We may have to push you down away from the stage.
I hate to yuck anyone's yum and shame their art, though, Gavin. So, Mr. Phil, is this the pinnacle of AI usage as far as you see it?
Let me tell you something. Shrek is my muse, my inspiration, my guiding green light.
Oh, no.
I'm using Flux and MiniMax to dream up the wildest scenarios you've never even thought of. Shrek as a samurai, Shrek in a noir detective flick,
No, we don't
Shrek
have these.
strutting down a Milan runway.
I'm not seeing
like he
that.
owns the place.
I'm not seeing that, Mr. Phil.
Me
We're talking
either.
Shrek in ways that'll make your jaw drop.
I'm seeing
and
that.
your brain do cartwheels.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
This is about unleashing the ultimate Shrek fantasy world.
Yes.
And I'm living it like you wouldn't believe.
Yes, but Mr.
And
Phil,
don't
I
even
guess
get me started on Shrek's love affair with the Costco hot dog.
Oh, no. Okay, we saw that.
He's devouring them with a passion that's nothing short of art. It's primal. It's beautiful. It's raw.
Okay,
Shrek
now
doesn't
Mr.
just eat that hot dog. He conquers it, and he looks phenomenal doing it.
He does.
Every bite is a celebration of life, love, and you better believe it's inspiring as hell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Phil. And now's a good time to mention that we're probably going to censor a lot of what's on the screen. And if you want access to the raw dog, you got to go over to our Discord and become a patron.
To become a patron. I do want to see, Kevin, do you give Mr. Phil a boom or a doom? I give Mr. Phil boom! All right, everybody. It is time to talk about some of the things we saw this week in the world of AI that we just love and want to shout out. It's time for AI. See what you did there.
He conquers the dog.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care. Then suddenly you stop and shout. AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
First up, I want to shout out Neural Viz. He has been making this incredible series, which we've shouted out here before, but the final epic episode of the Cop Files Part 3 is out. It is a 3-part series. It is the search for Tiggy Skibbles. I want to play a clip of this first, and then we'll kind of give a little bit more context at the end. But just again, this is an amazing AI video series that you have to watch.
With the help of thorough forensic testing, a suspect was determined, and Snarbo's unconventional interrogation methods led to that suspect divulging the potential location of Tiggy Skibbles.
So yeah, the suits came in and said they're taking over. One of them is using my desk to display some kind of porcelain tea set. Don't know what that's about, but what am I going to do? It's the MBI. It is a bummer, you know. I thought I might get to solve the case and save the day, and people would call me Snarbo the hero and get me front row seats to next year's Bug Slam and make me a decorative sash that said, neat job.
Okay, there we go. So you get a sense.
I want to go to Bug Slam so bad.
So this is just, again, a series that was completely created with AI. Neural Viz used 11 labs, used Midjourney, used Hydra, used all these different tools that we talk about all the time. But it's super compelling, the kind of thing that you could easily see on Adult Swim or somewhere else. And speaking of that, there's an AI video that came out. This is not a series, but it is probably one of the best AI videos I've ever seen. Yep. It's from ex-user TRBDRK, a very strange name, but he has created a French TV series with the opening credits for a French TV series, which have all these famous people in it, but it is very well done. Like, it is done in kind of a French style. It has French names for all these famous people. There's Jacques d'Orsay. But overall, again, just a very well done AI video thing that I think will take off in a big way, because people, when they see these things, they realize, oh my God, I can't believe it can do that. And again, it's the same sort of pathway we've been talking about. Okay, Kev, what did you see this week that was interesting?
I feel like another day goes by and there's another text to video model or some sort of gen video model that comes out. And I admittedly have not been playing with them because they're coming out almost too fast. Well, MiniMax to me came out of nowhere and it seems really capable. And a thread that caught my eye was a post over on X by L Scene. But if you look at the prompt, it is a over the shoulder shot of a woman close up. At first she's laughing, then she becomes sad, she starts to cry, and then she covers her face with her hands. That's a complex string of emotional turns and direct action for the character in the scene. And it nailed it. Like, it in a way that has me, I was really taken aback to go, wait a minute, is this like stock footage and they're trying to pass it off? And there are multiple replies in the thread of people trying it with animals or trying it with Mario or trying it with other humans. And it's absolutely nailing the task. It was really impressive. I went over and I tried MiniMax, and that's how we got Shrek eating his hot dog in the middle of a Costco and doing some other things. But right now it's weapons free. You don't have to sign up for it. You should probably use a browser that auto translates, but you can go and generate free video with MiniMax. And there don't seem to be any guardrails. You can ask it for whatever Marvel or Disney character you want, and it's going to spit it out.
And again, we should be clear, MiniMax is a Chinese model, right? So this is one of the other Chinese models that has come out. And yeah, what's interesting about this is, unlike the other ones, you're able to do, I think, just through the browser, right? Do you have to sign up for anything at all?
Nope. Yeah, I just went, maybe you do past a certain amount of creations, but I got a few out. It puts you in a queue. You wait about a minute or two, and there's your video generation when you're done.
That translates actually, I think, very well to some of the stuff we did with AI this week. I want to first get into a very small thing that I've made that I like. This is an inside secret for listeners and watchers of the show. Last night, I thought, I'm a big NFL fan. I've been watching a shout out to the Seahawks. I hope they do well this year. Who knows? The funniest thing to me about NFL podcasts and also the kind of NFL ecosystem of talking heads is that it's all about hot takes, right? So I wanted to try something, and there's only a couple of these out so far. I think I'll keep doing it, but we'll see. I want to create an AI hot take guy. So basically, I created a fake podcast called The Jeff Ryan Show. I created an image of a guy who's like a middle-aged guy with a goatee in the kind of vein of what you might see these people doing. And I started writing like the worst takes for him. So I wanted him to come out and have the worst takes. And so, Kev, maybe you can play the video that I sent you, which is my second video that's up on TikTok right now at The Jeff Ryan Show.
Are we sure TJ Watt is good? I mean, we all loved his brother. Shout out Bad Moms.
What is it with you moms?
What a movie. But TJ, come on, this is like football nepotism at its worst. We're supposed to ignore just how talented this Steelers offense is and just lather the praise on TJ. Nope. I ain't doing it. Watch what happens this week when the Patriots offense get a hold of them. Night, night, TJ.
So anyway, it's just a fun, interesting way to kind of like approach a character.
Hello,
AI.
Gavin. Brock says he's the best defensive player in the NFL, and Adam says TJ is the best defensive player in the league, which is basically the same thing. And there's a lot of people echoing that who don't seem to know that it's AI.
Yeah, and
you.
again, I'm not trying to fool anybody per se here. This is more like a comedy kind of parody choice I'm making, but like the idea of just kind of looking and taking and creating a character from the ether and trying something is really possible now. So that's what I've been playing with last couple of days. Kev, what about you? I know you want to talk about this tin hat lip syncing scenario.
Well, in between deep faking celebrities and manipulating elections, Gavin, I've got my finger on the pulse of the latest technology that the agencies are going to use against us. I saw a post about readtheirlips.com,
Yes.
Gavin, and this was a new AI model that you could supposedly feed footage of somebody shot paparazzi miles away.
And hear what they're saying.
And it will, without any source audio, be able to look at the lip movements and give you a transcript of what the person is saying. And it seemed a little too good to be true. They had a little demo video on their Threads post, which with a transcript at the bottom, but because you can't check the source material, there was no audio, it's hard to see how accurate it was. So I went to the website, which you can do for free, and I uploaded a video, and you put a little grid around the face/mouth that you want it to detect the words from, and I'm going to send you a little bit of my results right now.
Oh, good. I'm excited to see it.
So I recorded myself talking to the camera. I turned my head from side to side, and then I exported that video normally and without any audio. Of course, I uploaded the one without any audio to the website. So here it is normally.
All right, so let's test this out. I am talking, and I'm going to kill the audio from this clip, upload it to the readtheirlips.com website.
And at the end, I gave it a little bit of this too.
My mouth, but not a ton.
Here it is.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Okay. That'd be a tough one to grab,
That would
right?
be really hard
I would
to
think
grab,
so.
I bet. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and send you now the output from the website.
Okay, let's take a look at it. So just to be clear, you're recording these clips and uploading them, and it delivers you back a clip out of that experience.
It delivers you back the transcript of what it believes the person was saying in that clip. And spoiler, if you're not seeing the result on the screen or if you haven't seen what I sent you, it is high 80%, low 90% accurate. It says, all right, let's test this out. I'm talking. I'm going to kill the audio from this clip. I'm going to upload it to the readtheirlips.com website. I turn my head from side to side. It does not miss a beat. And the rubber baby buggy bumpers at the end came out rubber maybe bucky bumpers.
Which is pretty close. I would say not bad at all, really.
Enough. And, and again, there is a small, tiny percent chance that whatever model they're using, Gavin, ingested maybe an old show that I hosted or maybe episodes of this podcast. So maybe it understands me a little bit better. I'm doubting that.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think
thinking this was a zero shot. And yes, I was to the camera and it was pretty high res and it was going there. But the fact that it got any of it correct in the way that it did is, I don't know, that was startling to me. Am I overreacting?
No, I think that's
really
interesting.
impressed.
You know what makes me think of is that zoom and enhance might actually be a thing that people will use in the future. There's always been this cliche in movies of like zoom and enhance and get close and look.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now, if you are in London and there is, footage of everybody walking around at all time, you conceivably could zoom and enhance and you don't have to be listening to people. You don't have to have a microphone there. You can just read their lips. We talk about a security state. You talk about people knowing things. You talk about the idea that this stuff is out there. It's a little scary. I also think like the funniest thing to me is they used the celebrity paparazzi shots to figure it out, because now imagine a world where all celebrities are going to be like this. They're going to have like
we're all going to be sideline coaches, right?
Exactly,
we're all going to walk around with privacy clipboards that we hold in front of our
We'll
faces.
just cover our mouths up everywhere. Maybe the masks will come back, Kevin. Maybe we'll go back.
I can't wait
to
for Jeff Ryan to discuss this.
Jeff Ryan. Actually, that could be the turn that Jeff Ryan takes.
I want to shout out, I played with the Garbage Pail Kids Flux Laura this weekend, and you were none impressed with it. I loved it.
I love Garbage Pail Kids. They were fun.
Too.
I didn't love them as much as Kevin did, but I appreciate the fact that there's a Flux Laura now where you can make yourself into a Garbage Pail Kid.
Yeah, we had Gavin, who popped up as a card. There were some other fun examples. I posted them in the Discord to pat ourselves on the backs. I already love our Discord community. There's lots of great discussions and good AI art sharing. So head on over there. It's free to access. But of course, if you back us over on Patreon, there's a special patrons only room, which is going to get some very steamy Shrek artwork.
That's right.
As of
it won't be that. We're not promising it that steamy. Let's be clear.
I'm promising
it is not that kind of room.
Steamy Costco dog.
Boom or doom is what we got to be talking about. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us this week. We will be back again next week. Again, this is going to be a big week in AI. We are tracking the OpenAI stuff very closely. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it in the show. And again, just share the show with everybody you know. We always try to grow and do new things, and we are growing. And again, as Kevin mentioned, our Discord is a burgeoning community. Please come in there. It's free to join. Jump in, ask a few questions, see what we can get going there. I think we're trying to grow this kind of slowly over time.
Thank you to everybody who's engaged, who's helped out. A special thanks to all of our patrons for throwing a couple bucks in our tip jar. That helps us with all of our tool costs and everything else. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it in, and then Descript's going to remove it, and then I have to do it twice, and I'm going to lose my ish. But it's worth it. Thank you all for backing us. Thank you for the engagement. Please like, subscribe, share. That's it.
That's it. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye,